So in this video, we would want to practice how to receive input and output in the console and in the graphical user interface by answering this question that I have here. Question numbered 9. So this is the question. A car miles per gallon (mpg) can be calculated with the following formula. mpg is equal to the miles driven divided by the gallons of gas used. Write a program that asks the user for the number of miles driven and the gallons of gas used. You should calculate the car's miles per gallon and display the results. Okay, so in here, we will need to quickly ask ourselves what are the inputs, what are the processes, and what is the output that we expect. I hope you can take a quick guess. The question, to be able to calculate the miles per gallon, we will need the miles driven, and then we also need the gallons of gas used. These are the two inputs that we need. What is the process? The process is the division. So when we divide the miles driven by the gallons of gas used, we get the miles per gallon. We are going to use this example. We take these two inputs, we divide them, and then we have the output. This to help us fully well understand using the console to receive input, do input, and then for output, and then graphical user interface for input and output. All right, so quickly, let's get into our code. We'll begin with the console. So I will take off this. Okay, so because we want to do console, we will not need this, but what would we need? Take a quick guess. Import java dot util dot what scanner. You remember why we need the scanner class, because the system.in represents data in, sorry, I'll have to terminate this line. The system.in will represent data in a form of a byte code. We need to convert that into an HT data type. Okay, so like the question gave on to us, I'll copy this and then send to the code environment to make it easier for us to reference. Let me comment this. All right, so this is for commenting 2 /. Okay, all right, so let's create two variables for the inputs: miles driven and gallons of gas used. So the miles driven, we can have it to be a float because we can have 300.5 miles driven. Okay, so we have some decimal places in the values for miles driven, so we're using the data type float. We want to call it, let's say, miles underscore driven. Our variable naming should be meaningful. And then gallons of gas used. Gallons of gas used can be an integer. Okay, so now let's go ahead also and create a string variable. You can call that string input, or let's use SS. So then you understand that string input is not a keyword. It is just a variable name to receive the string input. We want to ask the user to input the miles driven. Okay, so what do we do? Take a quick guess. We use the J option. J option what? It is an input, so what do you want? J option dot show input dialog. All right, what do you want to tell the user on that panel? Saying how many miles have you driven? Okay, and then we terminate this line. Do you have any error here? Cannot find symbol. Okay, it is because we have this here. Okay, no problem. So I think earlier on, this is to we are supposed to do for console first, but I have written this for the graphical user interface, so I will change this library for graphical user interface. Sorry. So the scanner class uh, is for the console. So let's change back this for the graphical user interface. So it's supposed to be import Java with the X, Java X dot string dot asterisk. Okay, so with this we are good to go. We no more have that error. Okay, so now we have received the input, but it is in the form of a string. It is stored in the variable ss. How do you convert string types to their respective data type? Over here, you see on line 17, we declared that mouse driven is supposed to be what? A float, which will mean that we need to convert the mouse driven received and installed in ss, which is now a string, into what? Into a float. How do you do that? We assign mouse driven to be equal to what? We use the wrapper class integer dot password and what we pass on the string input, which is ss. So on line 22 we have converted the string input into an integer, and we are storing that in what? In the mouse driven. Okay, so the same way we will need to take the next input, which is gallons of gas used. What do we do again? We use the string input variable, which is ss, and then because we want to take an input, we use the JOptionPane dot show input dialog, and then we ask the user how many gallons of gas have you used. Okay, so we would expect the user to see. I want to terminate this. User to see the question, how many gallons of gas have you used, on the screen. So when that is input, we would have it stored in the variable ss. We will need to be able to convert the string input once again into, this time what? A float. Sorry, we said mouse driven should be a float, which will mean this is wrong. We will need to convert this into float dot password float, because we have declared it to be a float. I hope this is understood. Okay, mouse driven is a float, so its conversion should likewise be a float. I hope that is correct. Yes, hope you understand what I should say. So on the next line, gallons of gas is an integer, so we need to convert the string ss into an integer. Okay, so on this line, we use the variable gallons of gas. It is an integer, so what do? We use the integer wrapper class dot pass, and it is stored in the variable ss, so we convert the string input now into what? Into an integer. In the question, we were told to calculate for the miles of gallons that are traveled by dividing the miles driven by what? The gallons of gas used. So what we're going to do is we will create another variable float mpg for miles per gallon, and then we will divide miles driven by what? Gallons of gas used. Okay, so just like we created these variables, that is how we using them. So it should be the same spelling. If you use lower cases, as I have used there in your case as well, it should be lower cases. Okay, so what we want to do finally is to print this out. So to print it out, what do you use? Use JOptionPane dot show message. This time it's not an input we want, so we use what? The message dialog. Message dialog now. And then what do we want to print out? The miles per gallon is plus mpg, that is stored in what? Mpg. And then we terminate the line here. All right, so this is basically how we receive input and how we display an output in the graphical design interface using the JOptionPane. So I repeat again, all the inputs in the graphical design interface are in the form of what? A string. They must be converted to their respective data types. So on line 20, we declare the string variable to store the string input. And on line 21, we receive that string, the input in the mouse, and store it in SS. Because we want to do calculation, the string can be used for calculation. We convert it to its respective data type. Now, mouse driven is given the data type what? Float. So over here, we need to use the wrapper class that can convert it to what? A float. On line 24, we receive the gallons of gas used, which is also in the form of a string stored in SS. And we have to convert that into an integer type using the integer wrapper class. And we store that in the gallons of gas used. On line 27, we are calculating the miles per gallon. So we declare variable mpg, and then we divide the miles driven by the gallons of gas used. On line 28, we want to display. So instead of using the show input dialog, we use what? Show message dialog. Null in here is a keyword. This is simply following the syntax that if you want to use the message dialog, the message that you want to print should be preceded by what? The null statement. Okay, so now let's save the code and then let's run it. Our first graphical user interface. Okay, so the output comes here. How many miles have you driven? I have driven 600 miles. And then I click on okay. How many gallons of gas have I used? I have used 3 gallons, so I enter 3. 600 divided by 3 should be what? That should give us the output 200. So I have used so the miles per gallon is 200. I made 200 miles per gallon. I hope this lesson has been needful to you. In the next video, I'm going to show how we will be doing the same thing, answering the same question, but in the console level. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.